Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are back. It's the upper tier. It's Thursday tier talk. International break off the shoulder again. Thank God, all done. Happy days. We are back. Myself and, of course, Dazzler is there as well. How are we?
Just coming to terms with another international window closing. Thank God for that.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, listen, when
it opens, it feels like it opens onto me, Mickey, and then when it closes, it's the relief of, oh God, thank God for that.
Yeah.
It's just, is it like, I have to whisper in case she hears, is it like kind of getting lumbered with your mother-in-law a little bit? The old international break? It is, isn't it? It is.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. But however, we're back anyway, and we have football to look forward to. The FA Cup at the weekend, which is kind of weird because we don't really get the Prem back until mid next week, kind of thing. But we do have the Irish League is back tomorrow night in full effect, so we will have a look.
Sure is.
And I have done a few bets. I did an FA Cup bet, I did a League of Ireland bet, and I did a Division 1 bet as well for the League of Ireland as well. So there you go. So we have a couple of bets to go through later as well. We are going to be talking about other stuff as well. This new transfer window. And I did want to say this, and I don't think I said it on the podcast. I think I mentioned it, but just want to mention to you as well, Darren. I'm watching this show at the moment Onside. It's on Apple TV, or if you're in the know, you're in the know.
Is this the one we spoke about?
This is the one about Major League Soccer, the MLS, and it goes through the MLS, and it's absolutely excellent. And it gives you actually a great insight into the MLS, and I tell you, the fan base over there and the
I was going to say I've started to watch, and it was being a bit it was being a bit funny. It wasn't loading very well, but the video package that they put together at the start of it just really goes to show how the game has grown massively in North America. Massively. It really has.
Yeah, and it goes into some of the kind of, the local rivalries as well and what it means to them, and then they go deep into it and stuff like that. Obviously, it touches on Messi, and it follows either kind of one team or a couple of players and stuff each week and stuff like that. But it's really, really cool through the season and stuff like that. And also, it's well worth checking out, folks. So if you see it there, give it a try. It's definitely worth it. Let's go into the comments first. Just to let you know, Darren, shadow play is Romy One Kenobi. Just in case you're wondering. Hey, guys, even though I'm happy about Trent joining, I didn't like the way he went about it. I think he should have did it in a more respectful way. He owed the fans who have been loyal to him that. We will talk about it. We are going to talk about Trent Alexander. You'll get my thoughts on it on the number.
Oh, yes, we are.
And we get
let
Darren's
me just get
thoughts.
The shotgun. Both barrels loaded.
We'll see. We shall see. We shall see. International break is like getting lumbered with Rosie O'Donnell. Philip, hi Niall and Dazzler. Welcome back after the break, Niall. I hope you enjoyed Limp Bizkit and America 2 weeks ago. Man, the body didn't enjoy it afterwards, but I had a great time. Limp Bizkit were awesome. And I have to say, going to that Mark McCabe gig as well, it was brilliant. Snap and Alice DJ and Salta. So there was so many acts at it and something like that. It was absolutely brilliant. Ian, I was saying, what's the crack, Niall? All good, my friend. Hope you were doing well.
What's the crack, Niall?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, that's very short, isn't it?
What's the crack, Niall? Is this, can I just ask?
At least have the Irish Pat McAfee on it.
Is this because I haven't signed the 8x10 from you?
That might be it, all right. You haven't
Eno, pal. Jesus.
Big up Romy. Romy was giving me grief last week about Limp Bizkit and all, how crap they were and all this kind of stuff and all. And he went, they're awesome, man. If you get a chance, go to a show. I've been looking at some of the highlights on TikTok where they were in Poland and stuff like that and all. The crowds are insane. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. Right, let's get into this FA Cup. Baz is there as well, just jumped in.
Our man, Captain Caramel in the building.
He rang me, he video called me earlier for a chat, but I was in the height of going to look at that car I was telling you about. I had to hold my hands up. Absolutely. Listen, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. They're excellent.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah. We hold our hands up all the time.
Every week on this show we do. But listen, if you get a chance to go see them, honestly, you will not regret it. Acers, Trent 100% did the right thing. Real Madrid more ambition than Liverpool will ever be. I think there's more than one conversation to be had within this and stuff like that. I don't think that's just a simple conversation, although I don't disagree with what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Right, let's get in. FA Cup. Let's talk about FA Cup. We spoke about it prior to the international break and, you know, how cool it was that all these teams are kind of in there as well. And we might get, maybe in some cases, a new winner, maybe in some cases, a team that hasn't won a bit of silverware for a number of years and stuff like that. And we were kind of excited about that and stuff like that. So hopefully Bournemouth do the business. But let's see what happens there, you know. Give me your thoughts.
If you look at those 8 teams, first of all, I mean, you'd have got phenomenal odds going into the quarterfinals. No Liverpool, no Arsenal, no Spurs, no Chelsea, no United, no Newcastle.
No traditional top 6 bar City.
Yeah, so you'd have got massive odds on that. Who do I want to win it? I would love anyone bar City. I really would just love anyone bar City. And it's not because of any axe to grind with City. I just think it would do so much for the other clubs. I suppose Preston for me are the real kind of outsiders. I don't see them getting through this round. But I mean, if you look at the rest of the teams, any of the rest of the 7 could win it really. On their day, they're all capable of beating each other.
Yeah, the only one thing I would say about the Preston game, are we going to see a very changed Villa side? We got a Champions League game coming up.
You will, but here's the thing. I think even the Aston Villa change is enough to beat Preston.
Yeah.
And because of the golfing class, there will be changes. You know, you'll probably see
place to go.
Deep down, it's not overly difficult actually. If you're a championship follower, their home record this season isn't very good. So yeah, I don't think Villa are gonna be going in there worrying. I think they'll go into it and think, you know, we've a good opportunity to go in here. Preston have the 15th worst record at home in the league this season. So in 19 games at home, they've won 6. So that's not
saving themselves for the cup.
That's not a great.
They're a cup team.
Well, they're actually doing a little better in the league than they're, you know, but it's just away from home. They're picking up, like, if you look at it, their home form has them 15th. Their away form has them 15th as well. So it's pretty level pegging, actually. They're equally as bad in both ends of it. But I just don't see I just don't see Preston making it through, you know, unfortunately for them. It's great, a huge FA Cup pedigree, Preston, but for me, it's Villa all ends up there, you know, in that game anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think with the other games, like, I genuinely think with all 3 other ties, you could toss a coin.
Absolutely, 100%.
I think you could toss a coin, and I've done an FA Cup bet for later on, and I think there might be a couple of little surprises for people.
Let's see. We shall see anyway. So, right. So, well, then I suppose with that, is there any point in giving us your picks, or does that give away?
Well, I mean, like, for me, yeah, it would give away my bets. So for me, I think Villa was the game I didn't bet on. The other 3, I've put them into a bet. So if you want me to run the bet now then? Let's run the bet now.
Run the bet now if you want then. Absolutely. I'll hold mine down for later. You can run your bet.
Yeah. We'll run it now. So with the other 3, obviously Villa I see going through. With the other 3, I've actually gone for Palace and both to score. I think Fulham at home don't score enough goals. We've mentioned this before. Palace will be pretty tight at the back. I think Mateta is due back for Palace this weekend, and Eberechi Eze after his goal for England will be high on confidence. So I'm actually going for Palace and both to score. In the bottom game, I'm going to kind of go against what people think, and I'm actually going City and both teams to score. I think there's a lot of lads in that City dressing room will be looking at this as a very small step towards retribution for the season that it's been. I think if they didn't win anything at all, it would be a massive shock. And I think looking at the teams left in it, City are still favourites for me. So I've gone for City and both to score. And then actually the Brighton and Forest game, I've really struggled to pick a winner. I don't think there'll be loads of goals. I think it'll be quite tight. It'll be cagey because I think both teams will look at it as a massive opportunity to lift some silverware. So with that in mind, I've gone City and both to score, Palace and both to score, and I've gone draw in the Brighton and Forest game. And would you believe that pays 100 to 1?
You just went for a straight draw, not both teams to score, and a draw after 90?
I just went straight draw after
straight
90.
Draw. Okay, perfect.
Straight draw after 90. Cool. And then I've gone for the 2 away teams. Sorry, I've actually gone for the 3 away teams, but I haven't put Villa into my bet. I've gone Palace and both to score, City and both to score, and then I've obviously gone Brighton and Forest with the draw. I left the Villa game out because I didn't think I'd get great odds on it, so I just swerved it all together.
Okay, fair enough.
There we go. There's Eno. He loves me still. Thanks, Eno. I love you too, brother.
Still in there. Philip's in. Fulham, Brighton, Forest, and Bournemouth are my standout teams of the season. I would love one of those 4 to win it, but Dazzler is right. ABC, anyone but
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
And again, it's not that Oxford City or anything like that. It's just, it'd be cool to see like a Justin Kluivert down up, or a Matoma, or a Hudson Odoi and a Chris Wood, or even from Palace, a Mateta and a SA or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
And that's absolutely all it is.
And even a Raul Jimenez and whatever, you know what I mean? It would be cool to see someone like that walking up those steps and win it, or a Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, well,
I reeled it there.
That's certainly not something we want to see. Hopefully his deal ends. Hopefully his deal ends the day after the Premier League, and he doesn't get to play the FA Cup final or something. But yeah, like for me, if I look at the job Marco Silva has done, if I look at the job Espirito Santo has done, Andoni Iraola, like there's so many good jobs there. Yeah. Emery, Herzler, so Glasner, there's some great jobs done there. Really, really good jobs for the managers.
Isn't it funny enough when you look at all those teams you mentioned there? All those managers have done a better job this season than Pep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was the chances of us ever saying that this season, going into the season?
Very, very slim, I would have thought.
But literally, you could make an argument for every one of those managers have potentially done a better
job. Yeah, I would agree. agree. Yeah.
Interesting. Let us know, folks, your picks as well. But yeah, spot on, Philip. Who's this aim fella? That's your shadow play. Dazzler, I'm sure I seen you at the Hydro in Glasgow. Yeeting in a kilt.
Do you know what? If anybody was going to yeet in a kilt, Romy, it's 100% going to be me. I am a huge Jey Uso fan. And like any man that doesn't like getting his balls out has something wrong with him anyway. So, the kilt all day, nothing underneath.
We're partial to a draft.
Yeah, 100%.
Forest saving themselves for United on Tuesday night. No.
And it'll be interesting to see, like, what kind of a team Forest put out, because obviously they play Saturday and then they play Tuesday. So, and I mean, if you look at it, the boy Murillo played for Brazil the other night in the beating against Argentina. So I mean, this goes against Argentina away all the way in South America. He's coming back. He's traveling. He may end up away at the Annex to Brighton, and then he may end up at home next Tuesday night against United. It's a lot for a player.
What we would say, though, is he has a very good dance partner beside him, and he is a monster. He's a beast.
He is, yeah. And Milenkovic is very, very good. But I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see, I don't know, Milenkovic and Willy Bowley maybe on Saturday. Or the boy Morato is the other Brazilian that they brought in. He's a bigger kind of a lad. He's about 6'5". He's a big unit. Maybe they'll try and play him just to give Murillo a little bit of time to recover ahead of the United game. Because again, as much as this trophy would be massive for Nottingham Forest, dare I say they take the Champions League spot quicker?
Yeah, well, I mean, Forest,
I know Morris would argue with you on that.
Yeah.
But like, I think if you offer Nottingham Forest in this hand, an FA Cup, and in this hand you offer them 4th place, they take your hand off for 4th place now.
Yeah, I think in terms of what they could do with that money in the window and all, and how it helps their PSR situation and stuff and all, would be massive. Because we know the owner's flush. He's not short of money. The problem is that they're hamstrung in the way that they can spend it. So they need to have that revenue coming in order to be able to move on to that next level or whatever it is, So
absolutely.
Probably be kind of kill as well to see Forest lift silverware as well. That's like we spoke about, like how good will it sound next season if it happens, if we're hearing Champions League anthems at Forest and stuff like that. That's going to be
absolutely
very special as well. We mentioned about it with Villa as well. So so that's it. FA Cup. So we'll see what happens. But either way, I tell you, it's going to be, once you get into the semis, into the final, it's murderer's row. So whoever wins this, they're going to have to go through 3 tricky toys to get there and lift the trophy.
100%. Well, let's just say you are Forest, right?
And
let's say you're away at Brighton.
Yeah.
And you manage to pip them. And City win and Palace win and Villa win. And then you get drawn at home to Villa. Then you have to go and beat Villa at home, and then you have to possibly beat City in a final, because you could have Brighton, Villa and City backed up to, that's a tough little run to get you over the line. Like, I'm not sure.
Which transfer window did he mess up?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, like, I assume.
I think the issue there was, I think he went for a bit more and he wasn't backed. I don't think it was him personally.
No, and like, if we look at it, I suppose on the face of it, there's been some really good boys there at Arsenal. The boy David Raya, Jurriën Timber, Saliba, Calafiori, Gabriel. Obviously, Royce is big money, which is a great signing. You got Odegaard into there. You got the boy Marino. There's a lot there. I suppose the glaringly obvious omission is a striker. And I'm not sure if he put Kai Havertz on a CV either, because again, I don't know what he is. So, I don't know if he put that up. But I think working with the guy Marinakis at Forest could be a real good fit for him, because I think he'll be backed all day long. And I think maybe that's something he didn't feel like, or maybe Mikel Arteta had an awful lot of pull there. And it was difficult then for Edu to do his job,
It kind of feels like that kind of relationship that Klopp had with Julian Ward when Michael Edwards left the building.
Yeah,
probably felt like he was getting a bit overruled and bossed around a little bit and stuff like that. Yes. So that's it. Darren McCombsky rocking that kilt on commentary. There we go. Can you imagine how good Iriola would be with our budget? We would assume he would be very good, but sometimes it doesn't always transition.
The one thing I will say is, I don't imagine Iriola has had a huge hand in very many of the signings at Bournemouth, because Bournemouth are a very analytical team. Bournemouth are a team that are big into their numbers, and their next signing is always it's always in front of them, and they know who they're at and stuff like that. I don't think Andoni Iriola is cherry picking players for Bournemouth. So I think it's as much to do with the structure at the club at Bournemouth, which has been very, very good.
Absolutely no denying on his coaching and everything else, and how he's
100%. Absolutely.
And the level that they're performing at and all.
Yeah,
and the way they're functioning as a unit within the team and stuff like that.
Yes, because at times, like, you look at the team and you go, there's not a lot of worthies here. And then you watch them play and you go, Jesus, this is team football at its finest, where everybody's pulling in a certain direction, and everybody knows their job and knows their role and knows what they're there for.
There's not a player at Bournemouth walking on a pitch doesn't know what his role is.
That's huge. Sure. That is huge, man. Really is.
So much of the battle, isn't it? So much of the battle.
Yeah, sure is.
Right, FA Cup done and dusted. Let's talk
in the books. No, they say in the books.
Yeah, talk to me about this. We got news today. This transfer window, kind of transfer window 1, transfer window 2. Let me know your thoughts on it. I presume it was to facilitate the World Club Cup thing and all that kind of Jazz. A lot of people were talking today. Why didn't they just run it straight through from June the 1st of September?
Why would you break it? Why would you break it?
Well,
just run it from the first to the first.
Well, my theory on why they broke it was that they didn't want. Did they not want any distraction at the World Club Cup from the transfer?
For who?
Well, who's out there? Who's going to be at that? Is Man City at it?
Yeah. Chelsea and City, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's not really going to take away from what you're doing.
But there's other teams as well. There's other teams.
Yeah, but this is the FA and the EPL have done this.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily to be worried about what's going on with Santos in Brazil. Like, it's just open it on the 1st of June.
You've obviously said, who else is in it? Is Real Madrid and Brazil, Barcelona in it?
Yes, but again, they're not affected by, like, running from the 1st of June. You get the whole of June, July, and August. You have 3 months to get it done. We know what's going to happen. There's going to be a little flurry at the start. It's going to thin out all the way through the middle. And 2 weeks from the end, it's going to be hell for leather to get boys in to fill spots.
Do you know, I think there'll be a little bit of that, but you know something? I think teams are going to go out and do their business. They're not going to be we're not going to get Raheem Sterling levels here at this time. I think a lot of teams have already identified their targets. And most of the teams, if you look in the Prem at the moment, especially when we talk about ourselves and yourselves and City and teams like that, there's a lot of work to do in those teams. And they're not going to be able to do it that way. They're going to have to go out there and
there's a lot of work to do, certainly from our point of view. However, we know that doesn't always translate because of various different reasons. There might be someone in the pipeline, maybe that we see and haven't seen as much of, who's coming up from a younger level where the club is saying, I'm not going to spend 40 million on a left back. We've a 20-year-old ready there to go. We just need to groom him the right way or whatever. PSR obviously plays a massive impact now, more than it ever has. And we know sometimes that different eyes see things differently. Like, we could never have envisaged in the last 4 windows Arsenal wouldn't sign a striker. We could have never envisaged that, because every time we got to the window, we went, surely Arsenal are going to make a signing. They're going to get themselves a number 9 and win the league title. 4 windows on the bounce. Nothing. Not a stitch in that position. And to the ordinary fan walking down the road, it's so glaringly obvious that is what's missing at Arsenal.
Well, we both predicted, we knew that Kai Havertz wouldn't be able to repeat the form that he had shown. And I think part of it is they rolled the dice on that. And I think part of it is, do you reckon they went out and tried and they couldn't get it done? Or do you reckon they just didn't do it?
I don't know. It's hard to know for sure. It's really hard to know for sure. Like, I imagine that they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but maybe they weren't able to just drag it together and pull it together the way they would have wanted. And, I do understand as well that there's budgets to be adhered to. So when you go in and you've got X amount of money and you want a player of a certain level, we've seen it happen with Liverpool previously as well with Klopp. If you don't get what you want, you sit in your hands and you wait your time, and you wait till the next window and you see if you can get it done. And if it happens, great. And if it doesn't, you wait again. And some teams are very, very patient with this. I have to say, I think at times some teams are overly patient, because you've got to remember, patience to a fault, because you've got to remember, look at how few trophies are on offer season to season in the UK and in England.
And if you sit on your hands like that, you're binning them off.
Well, if you sit on your hands like that and you're in pole position to win something.
I said if we were going to win multiple trophies, we had to bring in 1 or 2 players in January, and we didn't do it.
But we also said this about you guys last year about, giving that bump to the squad going into the last. Like, this is 2 seasons on the bounce. We've had a very, minor conversation, let's say, about Liverpool doing a quadruple. Right. And at the end of it, what did you win last year? Carabao?
Yeah.
And this year you win a league. Now, we're absolutely not going to take anything away from the 2 trophies they've won. But if there's a conversation being had about you winning a quad last season and a quad this season, to come out with only 2 of the 8, it's a little bit it's almost like failure because of what opportunities were there had the squad have been added to, had there been, investment at the right time.
Yeah, I suppose the consensus is we're bringing in the new manager and losing Klopp. I think expectations were dampened right down. But I think the summer window, I thought the summer window was absolutely shocking. And I thought we would have done a bit of business in January and we did nothing. And I said it at the time. I said, we haven't done what it takes to compete at all levels. We know that Slot likes working with a very small group of players. So we knew at some stage players were going to hit a wall, and that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah, and like, here's the thing, you can see certain things. You can see, if you've looked at Slot over the last couple of years of Feyenoord, you can see that the squad is very small. And that towards the back end of the season, because he's used such a small squad, there can be ad hoc results here and there that just, cost them something in the end because of it. So, like, that had to have been on the radar for the guys in the background at Liverpool to say, okay, if it gets to January, let's add two. Let's add two. Let's bring in one on a long term, and let's bring in a loan even to just boost morale, just get us to the end of the season, show us what they can do. Again, I'm not saying these deals are easy to do. We know they're not. The likelihood is, if Liverpool were going to be able to loan somebody, it was because they weren't getting in somewhere else. And that's not necessarily the type of player that you would.
The deals can be done if you have the right ambitious owners. I mean, we've seen it with other clubs going out and signing players in the January window. We've seen Man City somewhat fix up and bring in players in the January window. So if you have ambitious owners who see themselves wanting to be at the top, like a Madrid, like a City, like these different teams, you will go out and do what needs to be done to get you over the line, do that. We've seen in the 2 PSG games for us, we were banjoed on the pitch. Absolutely banjoed.
Absolutely.
And the fact that we took it to penalties was a miracle alone. You know what I mean? Because we were absolutely pumped up. We were a little bit better in the second game, but the first game they should have been out of sight. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where it showed that they had hit a wall, and that there was a drop off. And we said this is what happens. And it happens even our best player, Mo Salah and stuff like that, he even tends to have a kind of a drop off at this time of the year as well. We've seen it time and time again. And I just think what problem is we don't have the players in there that Slot trusted to do the rotation that we needed to do. He only did rotation when he was really forced to do it. And that's when this is why we've paid the price. And this is the problem. So for us, and I've said it to you before, not only do we have a lot of work to do in terms of the starting 11 and pending the contract renewals, but we've also a lot of work to do as well in terms of our bench, bringing the quality of our bench up so Slot can trust that bench to come in and do the job that needs to be done.
Absolutely. I think if anything over the last number of years, we've seen how important it is to be able to go to your bench and pick and say, I know you didn't start. It's 1-1, there's 30 minutes to go. I need a bit of magic. And you bring on somebody off the bench and they get you over a line. We see it week to week. I mean, John Duran made almost a career of Aston Villa at one stage. He leaves Villa having come off the bench more times than he started, and he leaves Villa for 70-odd million pounds. And that's the kind of quality that they were able to call on. Now they've decided that they can call on Marcos Asensio from the bench. There's other teams in the league that are calling on really, really good players from the bench. And at times, and I know with my own squad, at United, we're in a different position, obviously. But I'm looking at the bench thinking, who do you bring on to change a game here? Yeah. Who's going to come on and grab it by the scruff of the neck and put a stamp on it and go and create chances, get a goal? For me, I'm looking at the pitch and I'm thinking, unless it's Bruno, who's it going to be?
Yeah.
And that's...
This is the conundrum, because you look around at the bench and you go, right, there's nothing there that's going to influence it. So then they just stick with the 11 because there's no point even making the change.
Yep.
And that's a bigger problem going forward.
And then fans will say, oh, he's having a bad period and he's whatever. And you're going, of course he is. Like he's played 90, 95 minutes 50 times this year. you know, and I know we talk about how pampered footballers are and how well treated they are and stuff, but your body, to a certain degree, isn't a machine. These guys are as mechanical as it gets, I would imagine. But I mean, it still needs rest. It still needs recuperation. If you look at somebody like a Bruno Fernandes, who might be doing anywhere from 12 to 15K a game, that's a huge amount of effort and stress and strain on your body.
And you can see when he's walking off the pitch, he looks like he's ran a marathon.
He absolutely does.
And then you're staring down the barrel of, okay, we have another game now on Tuesday, we have another game on Thursday, we're back on the Saturday early kickoff, whatever it is, you know, they're just, and we've spoke about player welfare a number of times. This is just insane.
I always, and it's funny because, you know, with certain players, it's different. Like, obviously, Bruno goes through a game, he hits every spot he can. He does, you know, and by the end of the game, he looks like he's been dragged through a hedge. I look at other players, and when you're looking at levels and you go, your man looks like that after 20 minutes. Yeah. You know, and the one I'm thinking of, and it's certainly not a jab, every time I look at Robertson, the lad looks like he's just been, I'm going, what's wrong with your man?
It's that Damien Duff fails, isn't it? Remember Duffer? Duffer used to look like he's poleaxed 10 minutes into the game. And he can run for 90. Yeah.
And you're like, wow, Jesus, it's...
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. To allow Virgil and Salah to run down their contracts is madness. They should have been wrapped up as soon as Slot came in. I think the difficulty as well in this is we talk about kind of player power. And you know, the power really resides in them. Look, there's no doubt about it that there's a problem with FSG there as well, that they just don't do sometimes what needs to be done. And it is criminal to let these guys run down. But maybe there's a shift here. We heard today now that Salah has had another contract offer, and it looks like we're getting pretty close to an announcement. So maybe that's good news coming.
I think with Slot coming in, I think, you know, the euphoria of what's gone before with Klopp and stuff like that. And obviously, when the announcement was made, you probably have Van Dijk and Salah possibly on the verge of signing contracts. And then they find out that the guy's been in charge for the last number of years is actually exiting the building. And then all of a sudden you look around and you go, okay.
And the thing about it as well is those guys know the internals around all this. We don't know. We don't believe Klopp was burnt out for a minute.
No.
You know, so there's a lot of shit being flung in the background here.
Yes.
That's very unsavory maybe to these guys as well.
But when you understand that the guy that's been playing the organ is now leaving the building, you want to see who and what the next guy in is to, you know, you want to see what they can bring. And I suppose with Slot, obviously, things have gone very well for Salah and Van Dijk too, in particular. But then maybe does it get to a stage that because you've waited so long, and now when you hit January, the offers can start coming in from abroad. Now do you go, we might as well just have a look at what their cards say? Do you know what I mean? Before we decide.
I think a lot of it is being said in terms of, like, I often believe the money will take care of itself when you're at that level. That gets figured out one way or another. I think the issue really is, I think the boys were expecting a very different summer window to show that bit of ambition, and it didn't happen. And I think then they were expecting a much different January window, because the boys were looking around. We were humming, top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League, in the cups. Everything was fairly rosy. And then they didn't do anything in January. And I'm sure Salah's looking around going, is this the ambition we're going to show now in this, with a new manager in this position? Is this what we're looking at? And maybe that's what Trent looked at as well. Trent looked and went, you know what? We'll probably pick up a trophy maybe once a year. It might be a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup or whatever it is. Every so often we'll come above water here. We'll pick up a Champions League. Every so often we might pick up another Premier League, stuff like that. But if the offer of Real Madrid is there, where you're literally guaranteed a handful of trophies most seasons potentially, and you're at a club where, talking about ambition, it is the definition of ambition at sport and elite sport level.
Absolutely.
And that has to be a huge draw. And we'll talk about Trent in a few minutes anyway when we get through the Irish leagues and stuff like that. No, but I just think with those two boys, I would be surprised if both boys don't re-sign. And I don't think I don't think the club can offer them any more. I know they've dampened it down, but I wonder, as we said, was it dampened down because they didn't want the two boys to announce that, and Fowler had said it as well, to throw shade on Trent's situation and stuff like that. And we'll not only talk about Trent leaving. When we get to the Trent section, I want to talk about what does it mean now for the next 3 months. Can this guy play? Should he be benched? Should he be around the team? Not only from a footballing point of view, but from a security point of view and everything else. What does this mean now? We've seen the crazy mental reactions over the last 3 or 4 days. The burning of jerseys, lads putting up videos of lads getting smacked by buses pretending it's the parade and all this kind of stuff and all. Crazy, crazy stuff. And my biggest problem with that is, and I say it to people all the time, I don't follow the name on the back of the jersey. I follow the badge. But what happened is, I think through the Klopp era, I think there was so much romance about this and what was happening and everything else and all. I think people kind of forgot about Liverpool Football Club, and they became Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah and Bobby Firmino and Mane and all these different players. And they started following them.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because I don't think you'd find as big a problem with what Trent has done if Liverpool weren't at your heart, because, like, for me, it's the same. I'm a Man United fan. Whoever comes in that door, I will sing for. If you're somebody who doesn't want to be there, I want you gone. I want you out. I want you out of the building, as you've seen with Rashford. I think that the big letdown for me would be when they're local boys. I think that's where the emotion of it gets.
Absolutely, and that was another point I was going to make. The point I was going to make is, I'm not a Liverpool guy. I'm not a Scouser. I don't live there. I don't feel. I understand it, but I don't feel how that hurts right inside in your inners, in your heart. For me, I follow Liverpool Football Club. I've seen Gerrard leave. I've seen Fowler leave. I've seen Rush leave. I've seen Kenny Dalglish leave. I'm 53 years of age. I've seen umpteen amount of players. Ronnie Whelan, Ray Houghton, John Hodge. I've seen all these great players leave and stuff like that and all. You know what I mean? But the thing that's always been consistent in my time following the club is it's Liverpool Football Club. And all those players have given me phenomenal moments. But I think there's a little bit of a naivety as well, that, like, there's nearly a feeling out there that this club started when Klopp came in the door, and this club ends when these players leave. And, like, everything has to evolve. You don't still have Brian Robson. You don't still have Roy Keane. You don't still have David Beckham. You don't still have all these different players and stuff like that.
Listen, what did Sir Alex say? There's nobody bigger than the club. And for us at United, there was also nobody bigger than Fergie, because if you got in Fergie's way, you were also shown the door. Now, as we've seen, when Fergie left, we had that massive drop off. But we still brought in players, and we still brought you through. And that's been massively at the heart of what we've always tried to do as a football club. I think it just grates on people a little bit more. Like, if Trent was Darwin Núñez, I think people would be happy enough to say, good luck, take it easy, enjoy Madrid, whatever. I think when you're a kid and, you rock up to the academy at 6 or 8 years of age and you got your little Liverpool kit on, and you stand up waiting on the bus every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday.
We've seen the ads, we've seen the videos, we've seen it all, we understand the background story.
Where the bad taste come from.
Yeah, and I think the issue is as well is this can't have been an easy decision either, you know what I mean? I'm sure he had a number of nights where he looked at this and he goes, is this the thing to be doing and stuff like that? I will not play down the draw of putting on that white jersey and playing for Real Madrid. And listen, I have as many reasons as anyone to not like Real Madrid, but you can't deny the undeniable. You cannot deny it. When they come knocking, I think there would have been a better way of doing it. I think maybe they could have said to Trent 2 years ago, sign an extension, we'll put in a clause that's 60 million to allow you to get released out, and Real Madrid can trigger that clause. So you're not leaving here, you're giving us something back. Now, the other flip side of that is he's played out his contract, doesn't really owe us anything. I think he could leave in a much better way. I think it could have been a bit more upfront and not the silence that let it fester and stuff like that. But my biggest problem is we all knew he was gone. Everyone to the man on the street knew he was gone. This, and I'm listening to people on social media the last 3 or 4 days talking about this as if they never even knew this was going on. We knew he was gone.
Absolutely.
And we also made the point. We also made the point that out of the 3, he would be the one we'd be okay with going because it might be easier to replace him than the other 2.
Much easier to replace than Van Dijk.
And we've also had conversation. And we've also had conversations saying, well, you know, he's so brilliant going forward. There's no doubt about that and stuff like that. But there's questions about the defending, and everyone has had those questions.
As a United fan, I miss him because I genuinely think when we come up against you guys, that's somewhere on the pitch I look and say we've a chance there, and it's proved itself a couple of times where we've been able to get in down that our left hand side, your right hand side, because he's been gone to lunch back in 15 minutes. He will be a massive signing for Real. I've no doubt he'll be a big success because I think everything's set up for him to be a big success.
Because they play on the front foot. They play on the front foot. It's attacking.
Absolutely. I think, I do. I think having Jude there will be a huge help for him and stuff like that. But I just think it just leaves a really, really bitter taste in the mouth just because of how it's gone down. Like for Trent to leave Liverpool and for Liverpool not to receive one red cent is very, very difficult in this day and age with PSR and with all of that that's in play.
The only thing that sits with me on that's okay is the fact that we never paid a huge fee for him. He's an academy player.
Yeah, so but it also doesn't mean you didn't put a lot of money into him over the years. To get him to the level,
absolutely. But listen, look, there's no doubt in terms of the financials. He's paid the club back in the way he's performed, the moments he's created, the things he's come up with, all that kind of stuff and all. So that I'm not necessarily worried about. I definitely think there's a better way he could have left. I think he could have given a bit of a kickback to the club and stuff like that, found a way and stuff like that. And it does look as if he's gone out the door, kind of slide the fans, and kind of wanted to take all the money himself and that kind of thing and all. And that's how it looks. In terms of the contract, there is no doubt that Liverpool offered Trent Alexander a very substantial contract, and they would have viewed him as well within 2-3 years as being the captain of the club when Virgil moves on. I think that would be the case. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's just, I think Liverpool fans and myself are struggling to comprehend that, but then when I look at the commercial side and everything else and the ambition and stuff like that, I mean, let's be honest. If you're sitting there and you're going, and this was the narrative all through these contract negotiations, was the ambition of the club is really important to us. So if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the ambition of the club and I'm thinking, FSG or Florentino Perez, there is no comparison. It's not even in the same galaxy.
No, it's not. And you know what? Like,
and that's tough to accept.
And I don't
look.
Yeah, well, we've seen what they've done over, the last 20-30 years. They've been phenomenal. I think for me, like, we talk about them being a draw. I gotta be honest, like, I'm a Man United fan. Man United is in me blood, they're in me heart, they're in me soul. I don't imagine if I was playing for Man United, I could ever leave them. However, I think if Real came knocking, it would be the one knock at the door that I might say, who's outside? Do you know? I don't think Barca land. I don't think PSG. I don't think Bayern, Juve, for all the great, clubs that we have out there. I just think when the postman knocks at the door and he's got that envelope and it's got that contract and there's a jersey inside it and it's the white jersey and you go, wow, this is.
Listen.
This is just, and it's a lot for a kid from Liverpool to say, "Nah, you're all right, lads. I'll stay here." It's a lot for him.
But you know what the problem is as well. First of all, he's won everything at Liverpool. There's nothing else to win. He can win it multiple times, but he's won everything at Liverpool. What disappoints me is maybe one day we hoped he would raise a Premier League as the captain or raise a Champions League as the captain or something like that. That might have been cool. But when you come out and say, I'm a lifer, I'm here, I'm the local lad, I'm going to be here forever. Or when Real Madrid come knocking, he turns around, the only way Real Madrid are getting me is if it's on FIFA. And you say things like that, and then suddenly the narrative is you're going. I've no problem with a player coming out and going, do you know something? I've done everything I can do here. Maybe I could become captain and generate this legacy and whatever it is. But I have an opportunity here to go over here and further my career in a different way, in a different direction, at a different level, to play with different players. And, you know, the financial side of it, we know how we feel about that. I mean, you're very level-headed as football player fans. We understand the love and the romance of the team and all that kind of stuff. But we also understand the opportunity and the commercial element and all that stuff. That's why the Saudi League and all this stuff, we've been quite level-headed about these things, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because we understand the value of the dollar as well 100%. As everything else, you know what I mean? And the thing about it is,
we're both self-employed, so we're two lads that have to make their own dollar as well, don't forget, you know?
I'm going. But I think that's the issue. I think the issue is if he had to come out and said a year ago or whatever it is and said, look, guys, and then where does that land? And then I suppose the other side I want to ask you on that as well now. Can he play now? Does Slot pick him? Is he going to be part of the team when he comes back? I know he is out injured at the moment, stuff like that, but does he come back in? And from a security point, are you going to get some lunatic at Anfield onto the pitch on a mad one?
I don't necessarily think anyone's going to try and do anything stupid. However, what I do absolutely hate the idea of is, you know, a Liverpool player being booed at Anfield.
No,
but I don't think it's impossible.
And we don't want it to be a distraction from what we have to do because we haven't won a league yet, and people are forgetting that.
You know, but I don't believe there's enough points for you to drop for Arsenal to go past you, because I don't think Arsenal win every point either. So me personally, I think you're done and dusted. I think it's over and done with. But I do think it will destabilise massively. And I do think it'll be a niggle that Slot doesn't want to have. You know, but
well, do you know what it is? It's going to be every press conference. It's going to be every post-match presser. It's going to be every interview.
Well, I mean, you look at when Amarin came in, and I know in one of the press conferences they were speaking to him about Rashford again, and he said, "Guys, I've spoken more about Rashford in the last 5 press conferences than I have any other player in the last 3 years of Sporting." You know, and it becomes too much, and then it takes away, and it's a distraction. And it's probably only, like, Rashford leaves the building in January. We're in March now. We're probably only seeing a lot of that disperse, and actually now Amarin go into an interview or go into a press conference, and the discussion not being about that.
Well, playing better and results helps that. Like if you were still in the mire and you weren't winning games and you were struggling, it'd still be, but if you had still had Rashford here.
See, I don't know if it would, because I think once he's left the building, there's not a lot you can do. Don't get me wrong, I do believe that obviously turning fortunes on the pitch is helping that. But I think once he's left the building, I think there's a lot of questions just stop. You know, now, of course, we may end up hearing on Monday. Did you watch any of the England games over the international break? How did you feel Marcus Rashford did? Will you look to welcome him back here in the summer? Have Aston Villa said anything? Have you spoken to Thomas Tuchel? All of that. It'll happen. I just think it's not something, certainly not something the Slot wants to be dealing with if he's on the threshold of Liverpool's second title in 35 years.
Well, he's been plagued all season about the contract renewals. It's the first question at every press conference about the 3 contract renewals. So, like, if that's the case, now that this is all evolved and come out now, and we kind of pretty know what's going to happen, and we knew what was going to happen. We knew, you know what I mean? But I just think now, I just, and the problem we have is we still need Trent's creativity. We still need that there, you know. That's going to be, you know.
I think you would get away with Conor Bradley between now and the end of the season. I don't think Trent will be any huge loss. I think offensively you will miss him slightly, but defensively you will get the bounce of having Bradley. And I don't think it's enough of a difference, you know, to change ultimately the result that we already know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Romy. Absolutely. It's just and you know, I get it. Listen, I'm not going to sit here on the podcast and say to anyone, this is how your approach would be to this player leaving. Everyone has to find their own level and their own way of dealing with it. Ben's in there, and I know Ben, if we hear tomorrow that Mo Salah's leaving the club, Ben will be unapproachable for a week. He loves Mo Salah. Loves him. Absolutely adores the guy. And I think it's the same thing. I think there's a lot of people at the moment vexed by the way it was handled, vexed at the ownership, vexed at what Edwards and Hughes were doing and all this kind of stuff. You know, vexed on a lot of different levels, and there's so many levels to this trend.
I think though, ultimately, right? And I know you're saying, you know, they're gonna look at FSG and they're gonna look at Edwards and they're gonna look at this guy and that guy. At the end of the day, it's Trent who decides to sign on the dotted line or not.
Yeah.
And in this case, every time Liverpool have put a contract renewal in front of him, Trent has decided against signing it. So ultimately, he has pushed this as far as he can go, to the point where now, you know, we know that it's not going to happen and that he will leave and he will sign a contract, but it will be elsewhere. But I think a lot of that has to lie at his door. You know, I really do. I think I understand you don't let a player's contract get down to that level. I understand that completely. But from their point of view, like, if you genuinely believe that the deal is there to be done, and if you're having a conversation with Trent or with Trent representatives, you don't keep putting contracts on the table if you don't think he's going to sign them. So there must have been some leading down the garden path slightly here as well for them to put 4, 5, 6 contracts on the table and the boys to say, well, we're close, but we're not just there.
Or maybe the two boys undervalued the draw of Real Madrid. And they thought that they could put big offers down because apparently the last offer, and again, we're not on the internal, so we don't know. It's only what we read. But apparently the last offer was 100 grand a week more than what Real are starting him on his wage. But I mean, I think this is a decision I don't
believe that.
Well, I don't believe it either because I don't know the two contracts. But that's the story. That's going around.
The only reason I don't believe it. Yeah, well, the only reason I don't believe it is we know FSG and we know how they spend, and we know they've never been, you know, flahula, let's say, with money. So do I believe Trent, who's going on a free contract to Real and getting a bumper deal, was offered 100 grand more at Liverpool, you know,
I'm not talking about the signing on. I'm not talking about signing on.
No, I know that. I'm talking about weekly wages. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure Real's wage is much bigger because it carries bonuses and various
so
things.
I don't believe that in the absolute slightest. I think that's complete.
I don't think no matter what they offered him, I think his head was turned and he had decided to go. And
you know what? That's okay. But don't lead them down the garden path. And this is where I think people are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Don't lead Liverpool down the garden path. Don't lead the supporters down the garden path who have backed you for the last number of years. Don't do that and then turn around and say, I'm out.
Who have come to your defense when you were getting battered over your style of play. I mean, remember, Liverpool fans protected Trent heavily in relation to his inadequacies in defending. And they said, but this is the way Klopp wants him to play. This is by design, all this kind of thing. We all did it. We're all guilty of doing it. So
I wasn't, but
no, I'm talking about us as Liverpool fans.
I know, and I do know you were, because you.
Yeah, well, listen, I was on podcasts here.
You're all in.
How many times was I on a podcast here saying his role is not to defend? He's basically an attacker. I said it loads of times. So listen, I'm as guilty as anyone. And listen, I'm not happy that he's gone. I'm not happy that he's going to Real Madrid, because our history with Real Madrid is obviously huge. And it kind of, because he's not going to a Premier League side, like it's not like he's going to United or something like that. No, but it still feels like he's going to a rival.
He's not going to City either. You know what I mean? He's not. Yeah, he's not doing that, and I do get that part. I just think it's not the rival thing for me. That's not it, because again, there's no real rivalry. It's Liverpool and Real Madrid. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we've said before, it's Real Madrid and everyone else.
and not even that. Like, even if it was, United Madrid or City Madrid, there's no real direct rivalries. We might bump into them once every 2 years in the Champions League, and so be it. Whatever. And there's history.
We seem to get them all the time.
Yeah, there's history, but there's no rivalry. But certainly from the loyalty side of things, and how things will sit with the local fans. What we talk about, what players do on a pitch on a Saturday, kids do in a playground on a Monday morning and on a Tuesday, right? And we know that this is the case. So for me, I think that the issue here is, are kids going to turn around now and say, it's all right to be disloyal? Trent did it. Is that what we want our kids to be taught? It's not. And we know that they idolize these guys. Yeah. They absolutely idolize them. Like, I have a young flit in here saying to me, could get Trent on the jersey when he goes to Real. And I'm like, I'd prefer to get Saddam on it because of the way he, because of not, it's not, if I had been Steven Gerrard, but he'd have done it in a more manly, upfront sort of a way, noble, dignity, fine, let's go about it. But not when it's that. That's the Rashford thing. That's the itch that gets me now, I have to tell you.
Yeah. Acers, that's not the case at all. Bellingham has come out and he said that it was only Real Madrid in the picture, and he was only ever going to Real Madrid. He was never ever going to Liverpool. So that's not the case. Maybe it's a case, maybe it could have turned his head a little bit in terms of the ambition of the club and stuff like that. But listen, how many players have gone there? Bellingham, Tchouaméni, so many of these.
I think it's so difficult. I think if you're at a club like Dortmund and your option is Real Madrid and anyone else in the world, you take Real.
Yeah.
I think it's only different if you're actually, at the boyhood club that you play for.
We know, because there's Arsenal fans at the moment cowering on social media that Saliba's going to go to Real Madrid because apparently they want him. So we know the way this works. It works through multiple clubs. Trent could have
the difference with Saliba will be they'll get a fee and he's not a local boy.
Niall, you love your Spanish bros. Come on. They've upset me once or twice, let's say. You know what I mean? Listen. I have the height of respect for a club that shows that ambition and stuff like that. And willing to spend that money. I'm willing to go out and go, see that guy? He's our guy and we're going to go get him and not one of you are going to stop us. I love that.
Love that.
Yeah, Raul. Yeah. And I think, do you know what it is, Romy? I think when you're younger, it's kind of like that. I loved Robbie Fowler. I loved Ian Rush. I loved all these John Barnes, these different players and stuff like that. But I think over time, when you follow a club for a prolonged period of time, I think after a while you look at it from a club level as well and you go, this is my club. You know what I mean? And listen, look at the amount of players over the years we've backed that have been absolute tripe. what I mean? But they were still our guys, and every club
they were
has
still our guys.
Every club has it, you know what I mean? So yeah, but I think unless, as I said on the podcast, I would never tell anyone in Liverpool or any scousers out there that are really hurting over this how they should do it. And we've seen the snake, we've seen the rats, we've seen the Judas, we've seen all this kind of stuff, and the burning of jerseys and all that kind of stuff. Now, look, if that's how you deal with it and that's what gets you to a new right back or whatever it is, if that's how you deal with it, that's how you deal with it. It wouldn't be how I deal with it.
I'm following Marcus Rashford to Aston Villa just so I can build a little fucker. Fact.
But you might cheer on Andy Elanga that day.
Oh, I absolutely would cheer on Anthony Elanga. No problem with the lad.
So you say it's kind of like, I get
but
it.
They're completely different. Anthony Elanga didn't want to leave the club.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't a guy who schemed to get out the door, you know, or he wasn't a kid who got the bus to Old Trafford, you know, from 5 miles down the road. Like, that's, you know.
Big up Zane. Let's see what Conor Bradley has got, because he ain't going to get a better opportunity now.
Absolutely.
I think somewhat that's the case. I'm a huge Conor Bradley fan. I think he's excellent. Right? Spoke about it so many times on the podcast. I think they're going to go out and sign a right back. And I have a funny feeling the right back they sign is going to be the starter. And we're going to see a bit more rotation out of Klopp. Because I think Klopp will have learned a lot even about himself this season. Or sorry, Slot, I should say. Yeah. Will have learned a lot about himself this season as well. As much as the inner workings of the club and the players and everything else, I think we will see a lot more rotation. And I think he'll be looking to bring in players that create a very different looking bench and stuff like that. We can see who he wants and who he doesn't. Be prepared for a very different front line this year as well, potentially. I feel sorry more for the kids. I have a sour taste for Trent not letting them know. Yeah, look, 100%. Listen, there's kids in school now at the moment. He was their guy. He was the guy they look to when they're kicking ball in the school. They're thinking, one day maybe I might get into the academy. One day I might be able to be that guy. And there's guys in the academy now, I'm sure, that are very disappointed in the way this has gone, who are thinking, one day maybe I could be that Trent guy, you know, this kind of thing. And who knows? Look, it's emotional, it's divisive, it's vexed, it's all those things. But come August 15th or 16th or whenever the league kicks off, or come the end of May or whatever it is when we've won another Premier League title, you know, the smoke will clear, as they say, the song goes, and it'll be a different world.
Those gates and that liveaboard will still be there next season, regardless of who pulls on that jersey. And Liverpool Football Club will be as big a threat next year as they were this season, and Trent won't define that, or Liverpool.
I'm surprised, Romy, you're even asking me about Jed Spence, because Darren was the one who alerted me to Jed Spence back in the day when he was in the Championship, tearing it up, and absolutely I would take Jed Spence in a heartbeat.
Oh.
Knowing the way FSG move, I take any bloody signing at this stage. Get guys in the door that pad out the bench or improve the bench or lift the situation. 100%.
Is there a fear that if you don't get signings done early and maybe one or two go out the door, like, okay, let's say Trent leaves, and let's say, you know, there's another bid from Saudi for Nunez and he goes, and let's say Wolves decide to put money on the table for Jota
to go back,
and let's say
Barca come in for Diaz.
Yeah, or even Monaco put money on the table to take Endo over to his pal Minamino. You know, like, are you in a difficult position then?
I think if people come in for these players this summer, I think they'll go. That's why I said to you, I think we'll have a very different front line next season. Assuming if we park Salah.
I have to ask this, and I mean this with the least amount of disrespect as possible, but who the fuck is coming in for Andy Robertson?
there'll always be a team that will come in.
Oh no!
We know
stop. Not with the not at the level of wages he's at, and with the
but I mean he's going to have
decline he's on.
Yeah, but he's going to have to make a decision about whether he wants to play or not. Because if he stays, either one of him or Costas will go.
Yeah.
And one will have splinters on their backside.
So you get right. Well, we know you're going to get more money for Costas, right?
Yeah.
So the likelihood is Costas leaves, and Robertson's your backup to whoever. But like I don't imagine anybody trying to get Robertson out the door of Liverpool with a transfer fee, with the wages he would command, and with the drop off that we've seen. Like, who would do that?
But listen, Michael Edwards is in there now, and we've seen Michael Edwards perform miracles in the transfer window.
Oh, would have
you know what I mean? Like we've seen stupid money for some players at times that weren't worth a whistle. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
And
we'll see what happens. I said to you already, I wouldn't be surprised next season if we've 2 new left backs.
Don't say it, because I don't think, again, like, I think if he used to have 2 new left backs and a 9 and a right back and possibly a set, all of a sudden you're 6, maybe 7 signs. Liverpool aren't going to do that. There's no way Liverpool are going to do that.
I don't think they will do that either, but I do think there's key areas that they've identified that, like, I mean, let's be honest, the difference between Robbo and Costas, we spoke about it even on drives. Robbo gives you that bit of energy and that bit of tenacity, and Costas gives you that final delivery that's a bit better and stuff like that. But between the two of them, like, it's a flip of a coin at this stage. And listen, I don't want to disrespect either of them. They've gone in there.
No.
They're probably going to win a league. Robbo, again, similar to Trent, he's won it all, but obviously in Madrid wouldn't be coming in from around like that.
That's my point. I don't know where he lands.
The drop off.
Yeah, but I don't know where Robertson lands if, you're thinking about getting him out the door, where obviously the likes of a Tsimikas, you've had the likes of a Brentford in from. You've had, you'll see a team like Brighton come in and say, that'll do it for us. Teams will come in for a guy like that. Robbo, I don't think anyone is putting money on the table for Robertson. So that's why I think you end up staying with him. And I think he ends up as your number 2.
I always think that a home can be found for a player. It just depends what way it goes. I get it with Zayn as well. He hasn't been as bad lately, but you can see that the issue is not when we're playing at Southampton. The issue is not when we're playing in Ipswich. The issue is when we're playing at PSG. That's
Real Madrid and Manchester City and Arsenal. Anyone with a bit of pace up against them is absolutely leaving them for dead. Yeah. The legs have just started to lose a couple of yards.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we've been linked with so many left backs and stuff like that as well. We know there's change coming there and stuff like that. And we know looking at Slot on the sideline, we can see that there's...
Do we think... Now, do we really think? Because I know, when we talk about this, we've heard names in the background, and obviously 2 big names that we've heard. So obviously for the left back position is Milos Kerkez at Bournemouth, who's absolutely going to cost you 50 million quid all day long. And we've heard Alexander Isak, and again, he's going to cost you north of 100.
Not even going to talk about him because I know it's not going to happen.
Do we? But so this is my point. Do we believe Liverpool are going to spend 150 million on a right back and a number 9 this summer?
No, and we know that's not going to be the case.
Like, I would be.
You
could pick me up off the floor if that happens. Honest to Jesus.
That's this Alexander Isak stuff. If they sign Alexander Isak and Mo Salah stays, I would fall off my chair because this is not their way. Now, the only thing I would preface that with is spent very little money in the summer and spent nothing.
Absolutely.
So I have to be stockpiling the cash.
Possibly.
And have they also looked at the situation? Have they looked at the situation that, like, I mean, they were offered big bucks for Darwin and they held on to him and stuff like that. Does that offer come back in again? I don't know. I don't see a problem with that 35 to 50 million player, the likes of a Kerkez or an Aitken or whatever. I don't see a problem with us moving in that for a number of those players. We are not splashing 150 million or anything like it on an Alexander Isak. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, and I'm not saying it's not the thing to do. But
what do you reckon the net spend is at the end of the window?
I don't know what the net spend is going to look like, because again, there's players there, and it's difficult in terms of valuation.
Let's just play a simple game, right? Let's just say 2 or 3 leave, Nunes being one of them, big fee. You get rid of a left back, possibly a Jota, and you take in 100 million, right? If you take in 100 million, are you spending 250?
I think if we're serious about defending the title, once we get over the line, we're serious next year about defending the title. We know you're going to be stronger. We know City are going to be stronger. We know Arsenal are going to be stronger. We know Chelsea will probably be stronger.
Well,
all these teams are going to be much
the only
stronger.
The only way Arsenal are any stronger is that they buy a fucking striker. But
yeah, but if they don't buy it this summer, then Arteta should be sacked at the end of August when the window closes. Because you can't tolerate that any longer. You can't justifiably talk about Jesus. You can't justifiably talk about Kai Havertz being your guy and all this kind of thing. So if they don't go out and sign a top-level striker, an elite-level striker, then Arteta should just go. He should really just bin it off, because he's wasting time.
Is it on him if they don't sign him?
Well, apparently he's the guy at the club now that has that power, and they brought your man Berta in, is it? The Atletico guy?
Yeah.
So he's come in as the sporting director there to work with Arteta now, which for me could be one of two things. Could be that they wanted to reduce that kind of power shift down with Edu exiting the building and find it. Or it could be that Berta's coming in to expose Arteta out the door. That maybe he brings in the quality of player that's needed and the coaching is exposed. I don't know.
Arteta's ex-Atletico Madrid. The likelihood is, if it's an Atletico Madrid sporting director coming in, he's coming in to be on his side rather than against him.
100%, Romy. I say it all the time. He goes onto the pitch more to sleep than at night time. Look, it's LFC fullbacks being Frimpong and Aït-Nouri. The Aït-Nouri situation has died down quite a lot. They seem to be hot on Kerkez, but I think everyone is. Walker, Peter, Smallbone and Manning incoming back to the B squad of Southampton for signings. Said it today, it'd be cheaper to buy the club than it would be to be dealing with them on a player level.
So just answer me a question for me again, will you? If you sell 100 million worth, are you spending 250?
I think if we sell 100 million, I think we'll spend 300 in total.
Wow.
And the reason I'm saying that is because that's what we're going to need to spend if we have any real ambition of defending the title. If we spend any less than that, you look at the holes around that team and around that bench at the moment.
If you boys spend over 250 million this year, I think I'll need reviving.
But it's only 50 million more than what you're saying there on a level where we spent nothing the last 2 windows.
What do you mean?
Like, if you're talking about, I'm talking about us spending the 100 million that we take in and 200 million of investment on top of that. So that's 300 in total. You're talking about us spending 250.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's only 50 million in the difference.
Oh, I'd be shocked if you spent 250.
Would you?
Even with the 100
what needs
absolutely.
To be
yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. There's so many holes there at the moment. Sure, look, what are you going
I don't necessarily think you shouldn't spend it. I just think your structure isn't set up for you to spend it. That's different.
I don't know, because this could be... Now, it would shock me if we did it, because I know that once we get success, we sit on it and we wring out the towel. And we don't build on it.
If you spend 250 million, even if you took in 100 and spent 250 and your net spend was only 150, I would be shocked.
Well, if Nunes, well, think about it this way, right? If you bring in a Kerkez and you bring in, say, a Frimpong, that's going to cost you to go to 100 million, roughly
80 to 100.
Right, so let's say that's 100 million gone. So that's 100 of your 300 gone, right? Then Nunes is going to exit the building. Jota potentially is going to exit the building. Diaz could potentially exit the building. So you're going to need to build a
now,
whole
if all three of them go, though, you're probably talking 150 million outgoings. So that's different.
Yeah.
So let's just even, you know what I mean?
But for argument's sake, then let's say Nunes and Jota.
Yes.
Okay. So then you're going to have to go out and sign a 9.
Right.
And you're obviously going to have to go out and sign, if Diaz stays,
another attacker
or whatever it is, another attacker. So that's going to be potentially what? 80 million on a really good one and maybe 40 on a backup. So 120, 130, 140 million. So now we're up to 240.
On 4 players? Oh man, I tell you what.
But look at what the market's like. Darren, you're talking about dribbling off Southampton. And Southampton are coming out going 100 million.
Listen, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying for Liverpool to do that, I will be shocked.
But do you really think they've put that structure in there? They've got Klopp out of the building and they've brought in Slot. And then they've brought in Edwards is back as the CEO and Richard Hughes in there as the sporting director.
Yes.
Do you think they're going to bring in 8 guys this season at 15, 20 million apiece, guys we've never heard of, and they're going to go, this is the way we're going to go? I don't think that's the case.
I think they might bring in 5 or 6 lads, 30 million ahead.
Don't know.
I think it'll be like a Spurs transfer window. Remember we talked about levels and ambition? Yeah,
well, I know. Listen, the ambition always drops off after we win something.
I think that's where it'll be pitched.
You know?
I think you'll look at it. I think
we're getting 100 million in from the Champions League and all. How can they get away with that?
I think you look at a Milos Kerkez at 50, and you'll go, great, love it, absolutely love it. But we found a lad elsewhere, 28.5, boom, job done.
Well, unless there's a huge amount of faith in the scout. Yeah. Unless there's a huge amount of faith in the scouting, but I don't like.
No, don't forget. The boy Kerkez came in last summer to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
So in one season, he's gone from 20 million to 50.
Well, we could make a list of those players.
It's not impossible. And that's the way I think Liverpool will pitch it. I think they'll look at it and they'll say, we're not going to buy the guy who's the finished article. We'll buy the guy that needs a year, and we'll buy 5, 6 of them. And in a year, 18 months' time, we'll have our new squad and we'll be able to keep going with what we have for now. That's what I think will happen.
I'm not saying you're wrong at all, because I know when we win things, then we collapse and we show no ambition. We just wring out the towel. This is what happens, but I don't know. This one just feels, maybe it's just me living in hope and stuff like that, but this one just feels a little bit different. It feels like they wouldn't get away with it. There would be absolute blood on the streets for that to be happening, I think. I don't know. It's just weird. And then listen, we haven't even factored in if Van Dijk and Salah go.
Well, we know we think the 2 boys are staying anyway, don't we?
I think so, yeah. Absolutely, he's worth a punt.
Absolutely,
and that's why I think we can bring that boy in and probably another really, really good player, probably for the price of Isaac. So the question is,
so you get Jota. You send Jota back to Wolves. So it's Jota plus 30 million. You get the boy Cunha, right?
Yeah.
And the money you get for Nunes, you put the same money down on the table for Gyökeres, right?
Yeah.
At that stage, you've got 2 out and 2 in. It's cost you 30 million. That's a massive win.
It's a massive upgrade.
That's a huge upgrade.
Massive upgrade. Yeah.
Right?
So this has been my thinking. I don't even talk about Alexander Isaac. Don't want to talk about it. because I know that won't be their thinking.
Yeah,
they're not going to take. Listen, Newcastle are not going. The only way that deal happens is if a Núñez or a player is part of that deal, and Newcastle don't make Champions League, and Alexander Isak forces the issue, says, "I want to play Champions League football."
Newcastle are 110% not taking Darwin Núñez as part of.
It doesn't have to be Darwin, whoever it is, a player, say for argument's sake.
Who else did they take them?
I don't know. Luis Diaz
to Newcastle.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. If they're
Luis Diaz, but Luis Diaz ain't going to Newcastle because they got Gordon and Barnes on that side.
Yeah, but we were in for Gordon last season, and we were putting Joe Gomez up as collateral.
You're putting him up as part, but Newcastle weren't pointing. Don't forget.
Well, apparently they wanted it was at a very close stage.
They wanted a deal for Gomez, but they absolutely weren't willing to part with Gordon. That was never on the cards.
We shall see. We shall see. It'll be interesting. Listen, I think this window is going to be a record-breaking window in terms of money spent in the Premier League. I think so many teams have so much to do. Listen, Kimmich, no brainer.
He's signing back on it. He's signing back on at Bayern, though, isn't he?
Well, apparently contract talks broke down again last week, so I don't know.
No, I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I would expect him to re-sign. They've got their pantomime villain already. It'll be Trent's fault you've no money.
Might be. It's a good shout, actually.
They could try that, Ted, but they wouldn't get away with it because we know they haven't spent a sausage in two windows. So. Niall and Darren, you guys are my Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. There you go. Love it. Appreciate that. Big up, Ryan. Good evening, lads. How are you, my friend? I hope
good, man, Ryan.
Good. Does feel weird an international break, doesn't it? And yet we're not coming back to Premier League action. Feels
horrible.
Very weird. How do you feel about this? I thought this was kind of an apt quote today. It's not so important what people think when you come in. It's much more important what people think when you leave.
I agree.
It's quite fitting, isn't it?
Agree.
It's quite fitting.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Little did we know when he dropped that quote out what we would be going through.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yep.
Yeah, you were going to anyway. Right, we do a few bets?
Sure, listen. I've two for you. I gave you my FA Cup one earlier, so I've two other ones.
You fire away.
In the red corner, we have our League of Ireland bet. I've gone for Bowes.
Sorry, we didn't even look at this, actually. This should be coming up.
Yeah.
There you go.
I've gone for Bowes and Bow to score against Galway. I've gone for Shells and Bow to score against Sligo.
Okay.
And I've gone for Rovers and Bow to score against Derry. And that little treble pays 116 to 1.
Interesting. Do you want my result about the score for the league? The League of Ireland?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I agreed with you on Shamrock Rovers. So
yes.
Tidy little price even on its own at 4 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
I went for Cork versus Drogheda. And I went for...
Did you go Drogheda?
No, I went both to score and a draw down at Turner's Cross. Tough place to go. And we know Cork this season have been quite plucky. And then I went for Bowes versus Galway United, and I think you're underselling Galway United, who have had a fantastic start to the season. Bowes a little bit blunt as well if you look at their goal scoring. So, of course, Bowes at home. I went for both to score and another draw. So I went for Rovers, Cork and Drogheda a draw, and Bowes and Galway a draw with both teams scoring. And that pays 93 to 1.
Okay.
There we go. Am
I going to do my league bet then?
Yeah.
So this is obviously for Tuesday/Wednesday. I've gone for a big home win in their trophy celebration. Newcastle both to score against Brentford. I've gone City and both to score against Leicester because they're leaky. I've gone Bournemouth and both to score at home against Ipswich. And I've gone for a straight draw in the Forest United game. You too, Dino?
Absolutely.
Always, brother. And that pays 80-1.
Nice.
So three results on both the scores. Newcastle, Man City, and Bournemouth, and a draw in the United game.
Yeah.
80-1.
That's nice. That's sweet, Stephen. You met CM Punk and got a figure signed. Awesome up in Belfast.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. That's beauty.
That is beauty. Stephen, you'll have to send us in a picture of that, will you?
Yeah, we'd like to see a nice picture.
We'd like to see that, pal. Can you pop it in the comments? How does it work?
No, I think it's just comment. I don't think you can put an image in.
Right.
But you can send it in to someone, pop it up. Yeah, we'll pop it up as part of the wrestling show.
I'd love to see that, man.
I didn't do a league bet because I'll do that.
You're going to be here on Monday night.
Yeah. So what I did was I did an FA Cup bet. So I did Bournemouth and both to score. Bournemouth to upset Man City. So kind of the reversal of what you were thinking.
Uh-huh.
I did Fulham and both to score as well against Crystal Palace. I think Fulham will be strong at Craven. And I did Aston Villa and both to score. I think Preston might be plucky enough to get one goal maybe. So we'll see. But Villa ultimately. And that pays 57-1 for that treble. And then I did an interesting bet for Division 1 in the Irish League. And I did a handicap bet, believe it or not. And there's good odds on this as well. So this pays out 169-1, right? And this isn't far-fetched either now, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Great number.
So I said Dundalk playing Wexford. Dundalk -1.
Yeah.
I did Cove Ramblers away to Bray tomorrow night in the Carlisle grounds. Bray somewhat struggling a little bit. Cove Ramblers playing really well at the moment. I did Cove Ramblers -1. I went against my own team for the bet.
Right.
And then Kerry versus UCD. I did Kerry -1. UCD struggling, Kerry playing well at the moment. And the final one I did was Treaty United against away at Longford. Longford again really struggling. Treaty doing really well this season, actually playing really well and scoring goals. -1. And that pays 169-1. 170-1 nearly. And there's
keep your fiver.
I don't know, there's nothing in that. A fiver will give you nearly a G.
Yeah, but you've to it would be $8.50. But you need all four of those teams to win by 2.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a stretch with how few goals that are scored in the League of Ireland and the second division.
A lot of goals being scored in that first division at the moment. Big amounts of goals. So we'll see. It might be one that I'll do at the weekend. Definitely take it. So yeah,
well, you better make sure to do it on Friday because otherwise you're.
I have to do it tomorrow morning. True that,
Holmes. True that.
Yeah, Dana, we love you too, bro. We love you.
You know it. You know it, Dana.
He's an absolute gent, contrary to popular belief. He was freaking out the other night at that OnlyFans girl, wasn't he? Touching him up. Score or assist for the league. 36.5-1. We have to guess it now, do we?
Oh, Jesus, Ted, you're killing me.
The score or assist. Bruno Fernandes.
Now, you have to give us the teams. Like, we can't be picking. Jesus.
Give us the teams that we're going in here blind.
Yeah, we can't be picking like random players. Like, we at least need to know what teams
does the
ad
say? We're good, but we're not that good.
Right, what have we got? Can we make the assumption Ollie Watkins is in it? Look at the last one.
We could, but he might have turned the tables on us, did he? The Wolves versus West Ham.
Wolves, West Ham, Matthias Cunha.
Yeah. Either that or Jared Bowen.
Yeah, Matthias Cunha. I'm going Cunha.
Okay. United versus Forest.
Although he could go the boy Strand Larson, but I'm going Cunha. United versus
Forest.
I think Bruno. He's going. Yeah, I think he's going Bruno. Yeah,
has to be Bruno, doesn't it?
Yeah, Newcastle Brentford. I think he's going Brian and Mbeumo.
Really?
Yes, and Villa versus Brighton. I think he's going Ollie Watkins. So Cunha, Bruno, and Mbeumo, Watkins. How many have I got, Ted? How many have I got?
Cunha's suspended.
Still, I got an extra one. So then I'm going Strand Larson.
Strand Larson. Yeah.
I'm going Strand Larson. I'm going Bruno, and Mbeumo, and Watkins. Hit me, Ted. 4. Many have I got?
If he's going Brentford, he's probably going Villa, is he?
Drumroll, please, Ted. Come on, here we go, Ted.
Brighton versus Villa. That's 1 out of 4, Darren. 1 out of 4.
1 out of 4.
1 out of 4.
Right, Ted. Come on, break the news to me, will you?
So it's obviously it has to be Bruno, doesn't it? Bruno has to be.
Might not be. He might be going. Anthony Alanga.
Nah.
He might be. Or Chris Wood. What have we got?
Ferguson, Bruno, Murphy, and Asensio.
Okay. I think your biggest stretch there is probably Ferguson, isn't it?
Yeah, struggling.
The other three aren't a stretch at all. Took the goal well the other night, but
yeah,
I still think I'd want to see a little bit more before I was backing him in a Premier League game. To be honest with you, but
yeah, he's definitely still not the Ferguson of last season.
No,
but he's moving towards it.
I think we spoke about Graham Potter being the ideal man to get what he needed to get out of him, and I think it's working quite well. And I think the other night obviously showed that.
Asensio, Brighton versus Villa.
Yeah, Asensio's on.
I thought he would have went from Matoma. I thought he would have went from Matoma or.
Asensio's on absolute fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But may or may not start. You see, he's got his goal.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if he starts or not. He's better off the bench at this stage.
Right, folks, that's it. Another show in the bag. If you could subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button and drop a like on the video. Enjoy the football.
Oi, Captain.
Absolutely. I will be back on Monday with Mark. Monday Mashup will be back. We'll be back again either Tuesday, Wednesday, Pro Wrestling Weekly.
I hope
you enjoyed the show last night. I hope you enjoyed the show last night. Bren was on with me, Bren Reid, and we had a good time. It was excellent. Great having Bren on. Bren's a long-time customer, Darren, who used to do the radio show on Anna Olivia back in the day.
Nice.
The wrestling one, yeah. So we have Bren on, so it was great connecting with him again. He's always coming. He's a great supporter of the shop and everything,
Nice.
Right, so that's it, folks. Stay safe. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football. And if you're having a bet, don't be betting with money that's very, very important to you. Only money that you can afford to lose. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Cheers. Fuck Trent.